Hello and welcome to this installment of Cell Division. If you watched my last installment, you know that we were talking about mitosis. Well, today we're going to talk about meiosis as a type of cell division. And you'll recall that mitosis was a form of asexual reproduction. And we're going to see how this process of meiosis is different from mitosis. The function of meiosis is to produce sex cells with half the number of chromosomes. And it is unlike mitosis, it's a form of sexual reproduction. Meiosis occurs in eukaryotic organisms which reproduce sexually. And this includes organisms such as plants and animals. And it's a two-part process of cell division. It produces sex cells with half the number of chromosomes as the parent cell. And the two parts of meiosis are called, interestingly enough, meiosis I and meiosis II. Now, each of the two steps of meiosis, meiosis I and meiosis II, they each have the same phases that mitosis has. So they have that PMAT, just like mitosis. But in this case, meiosis I has PMAT I, and meiosis II has PMAT II. So we're going to take a look at meiosis I first and all of the different phases of meiosis I. So we have prophase I, metaphase I, anaphase I, and telophase I. Now, just like mitosis, the cell is going to start in interphase. And during interphase, you're going to see the DNA being copied and centrioles forming. And when the DNA is copied, this cell right now has two identical sets of DNA. Then the cell enters into prophase I. And during prophase I, the nuclear membrane dissolves. The centrioles have moved to the poles of the cell. Spindle fibers are forming, and DNA takes the form of chromosomes that each have two identical chromatids. And this is where we also see homologous pairing of chromosomes. Now, homologous pairs, if you'll recall, these are pairs of chromosomes that have the same genes, and they're similar in size, and they're similar in shape. So in this picture, we see two sets of homologous pairs. One set of homologous pairs is larger, and the other set of homologous pairs is smaller. But these homologous pairs kind of stand shoulder to shoulder with each other. So they're standing next to each other, and that's going to help with something called crossing over. And in prophase I, we see crossing over of chromosomes. And crossing over is the exchange of genetic material between homologous chromosomes. So if we look at this picture, we see a homologous pair of chromosomes. We have a purple chromosome and a pink chromosome, but they are homologous pairs. They're similar in size and shape, and they contain the same genes. But since they're standing next to each other, they can cross over. So you see on that bottom leg, they're kind of wrapping around each other. And then if you look over at the picture on the right, you'll notice that a portion of the purple chromosome or chromatid has moved over onto the pink chromosome, and a portion of the pink chromosome has moved over onto the purple chromosome. This is called crossing over, and crossing over is important because it results in genetic diversity. Okay, now in metaphase 1, we see these homologous paired chromosomes line up along the equator, or the middle of the cell. Now, it's similar to metaphase in mitosis because they are lining up along the middle, but now instead of lining up end to end, you have homologous pairs next to each other, and those pairs line up along the middle. Instead of individual chromosomes lining along the middle, you have pairs that line up in the middle. In anaphase 1, the spindles that were forming attached to the chromosomes, and the homologous chromosomes are separated, but the chromatids remain attached. Remember, in mitosis, the chromatids were broken apart from one another. The chromosome was separated. But now it's just the pair of chromosomes is separated. So the full chromosome of the pair moves to each side rather than just the chromatids. So each chromosome, which is a pair of chromatids, moves towards opposite poles. And in telophase 1, or telophase 1, the cytoplasm divides between the two cells, and a nuclear membrane forms around each set of chromosomes. And this makes two new cells. And each cell still has a full set of chromosomes. In a human, that would be 46 chromosomes. And you can also see in this picture that crossing over has taken place. And you can see, because crossing over has taken place, these cells are not identical. If you closely examine the chromosomes in the two cells, they are, particularly you can see in the large chromosome of each cell, they're not the same. Now let's take a look at meiosis 2. So we've gone through meiosis 1, the different phases, PMAT1. Well, now that meiosis 1 is complete, now it moves into meiosis 2, and this is the second set of cell division in meiosis. So we've got PMAT2, we have, well, don't worry about interphase 2. We just want to talk about PMAT2. So we have prophase 2, metaphase 2, anaphase 2, and telophase 2, and cytokinesis. So prophase 2, we have those centrioles again that move towards the opposite ends of the cells, and spindle fibers are forming, although you do not see that in this slide. And the nuclear membrane dissolves. In metaphase 2, this is kind of looking more like metaphase in mitosis. We've got the chromosomes are lined up along the equator, just like in mitosis metaphase. So we no longer have homologous pairs. The chromosomes have lined up in the middle. In anaphase 2, we see the chromatids are being separated and are moving away from each other toward opposite poles of the cell, just like in anaphase mitosis. And in telophase, you can see that the nuclear membrane forms around each set of chromosomes. Now we have 4 daughter cells that have been produced. And each daughter cell is genetically different. If you examined each of these nuclei and the chromosomes within them, you would see that they are different from each other. And these 4 daughter cells, they're special cells that we call sex cells, and they're also known as sperm and egg. So in organisms that reproduce sexually, those organisms have cells that go through meiosis to produce sperm and egg. So if you'll remember, mitosis goes through 1 cell division that results in 2 daughter cells, which are genetically identical. Meiosis goes through 2 divisions, meiosis 1 and meiosis 2. It starts with 1 cell, and after meiosis 2, you have 2 cells that are genetically different. And then those 2 cells go through another division, meiosis 2, and the result is 4 daughter cells that are genetically different. Well, thank you for watching this presentation on meiosis, and I hope you enjoyed it. And tomorrow we will be taking mitosis and meiosis and comparing and contrasting them.